So we have here a game against Schlenker in London.
It was a very big open in London immediately after my victory from 1980. And this time Schlenker was a very talented player who tried to surprise me in the opening, the move order. We'll see how and why. After g6, now white played e4, and after bishop g7, I played c4. Of course, instead of c4, which gives some kind of position very normal for King's Indian in every position, white could play finally knight c3, and after knight c3, d6, we have a normal position from Pirs to Ufimца, but it's different. It's an e4 position. Now is a d4 position after c4. Mm-hmm. And now comes the small surprise. Instead of knight c6, which is a little bit unusual, black could play, of course, c5, d6, or knight f6. No, d6 is the most usual move, but c5 is okay also. C5 comes usually to a normal position from Benoni. And after d6, we have a normal position from King's Indian. Here, the move order was very important because after knight c6, instead of knight f3, white could play, of course, d5. But after d5, black is already okay, has already very good game. After d5, knight d4, d5, yeah? Knight d5, knight d4, and after bishop e3, for instance, the most normal move, now comes c5, and black is okay. Black has already a very good game because he could arrive with the knight in very central position in d4. Now, if you take, for instance, in c6, after this takes c6, he keeps control on d4, and black has no problem at all. You see? He can be very satisfied with the results of the opening, So knight f3, of course, is better, knight f3. Now, after knight f3, you threaten already d5. Now he has to do something. So he played himself e5. Okay. And after e5, taking in e5 is also a small surprise because the normal move, of course, is d5. After d5 is very complicated position, but very small edge for white. Not much, very small. After e5, d takes e5, the position is very complicated, but white is clearly better. And move order is also very important. So after knight e5, knight d4, again, the best move, much better than taking in e5 immediately.
Why is better?
Because he has already a very active bishop. He has, for the moment, control on the black diagonal, and white has very little, if nothing, from the opening, You keep many pieces on board, and after knight d5, the advantage is clear. It's not very big, but it's very clear for white, you see. So knight d4, he plays d6, and we arrive move by move in a King's Indian, as special position from King's Indian. Knight e7, good. It was possible, of course, to play knight f6 also. Knight e7 is another idea. Okay, bishop e2. He plays the other knight in c6, and now bishop e3. And this is a little bit too active, in my opinion. Maybe not a small mistake, but too optimistic, let's say, for black. I mean, he tries to keep the position open as possible and have very, very good tactical chances for him. In a big open like the London Open that we played, this is more or less normal to play like this. In a normal tournament, the move h5 is, you can't recommend something like this. You have to play. Yeah, you have to play more quietly. Yeah.
Like a castle, for example.
Yeah, castle, or even taking in c5, in d4, and then maybe to play c5, giving the control on d5, but hoping to have control on d4 square after knight c6. That was another idea. But okay, after h5, I took in c6. He took with pawn. After knight takes c6, queen d2, white is a little bit better, Queen c2, queen d2, or even rook c1, a little bit better for white anyway. Okay, now the position is very complicated. After f4, knight g4, and bishop d4. Now, as you've seen, it's clear. White has an edge, maybe not decisive, but it's a little bit unpleasant for black, you see, here already. So he played rook, king f8. Well, it was possible to castle also, but then white keeps the advantage. The idea is very clear for white. White has to castle long side, the other side, queen side, and try to have some advantage and some attacking chances on the other side against the king, So after king f8, I played... what did I play here?
Queen d2.
Queen d2, okay. Queen d2 is okay. Now he played bishop e6. And now I took in the g7, he took in g7, and castle long side. Now we have the result of the opening. White is clearly better, but you have to demonstrate how, you see. One idea is to play later on queen d4 check and c5, maybe, to weaken a little bit the position in the central side and on the queen side. The other idea is to play with some attacking chances on the king side with h3, with the idea later on, even if you give the pawn, to play g4. And realize maybe also the move f5. Many good chances for white, you see.
And he cannot come with the knight here
because... knight f2 because he loses
a piece.
A piece after queen d4 check, yes.
Okay.
And here he played king h7. That was not good in my opinion. It was better, the only moment where he could play better, queen f6. White is better, but it's not very clear. Queen f6 keeps the position open, but white has to, to play very precisely to demonstrate that he's much better. After king h7, the idea is very clear now. He hopes to have time maybe to play something like knight f2, but has no time, of course. So here, bishop d3, we are threatening already f5 in some positions, very unpleasant. So now he played finally f6, but it's artificial, because white comes very quickly in that position. Now, h3, knight h6 first, and g4. Now everything is very clear. You have to take in g4 if you want to do something, but if you take in g4, you are lost immediately. If you take in g4, after move f5, for instance, you can resign. Because if you take in f5, we take in g4 and we are attacking twice in h6. And it's finished. Attacking chances for white are terrible, I mean, has no defense at all. Yeah. So now after h4, he tries to avoid to close the game, but it's too late now. Now he loses the pawn for nothing, and the attack continues, after queen f2. And okay, he realized he played back with the king in g7.
But here wasn't defendable with g.
Yeah, if he plays g5 after e5 check, the attack is terrible again.
E5.
E5 check, because if there you can play, for instance, king g7, you have time to play f5 and e6, and terrible position for black.
E6, yes. Yeah.
So okay, so he played king g7. He realized now that he loses a pawn. Now, if he takes in g4, I mean, he recaptures the pawn. Yes. But after queen g3, the attack again is very strong, and white must win in a few moves. You see. Has to go back, and the attack continues. You have the threat f5, rook g1, everything is there. h4, h5, f5. Everything is much too much. So okay, it's not good to take the pawn, but now he lost the pawn, and the attack continues. After knight f5, queen f2. All right, he can block the position for the moment after knight h4, but white has much space and very good attacking chances, and he can win very spectacularly the game just in a few moves. We'll see. The attack will be decisive in just a few moves.
Why did you brought here the rook?
I tried to open, the file later on. You see, if you have time to open the f file, it's decisive. You see?
Yes.
Yeah. So queen g8, he tries the only counterplay in my attacking the pawn from c4. Okay, f5. now everything is clear because he has to take, you see. And now we take in g6, has no time to take in d3 because he's mated after queen f6 check, you know. So he has to play the only move, knight g6, knight takes g6. Now we take with check, he goes to h7 and rook f5, decisive. Now he threatened mate in 1.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So the only move here is queen e6. And now, okay, white wins by any move wins.
Wins a piece.
But the most clear, the clearest way to win is rook check in h5, king there, and now bishop takes c4. And now it's clear, you have to take and you are mated again, you know, so move by move.
Yes.
In 2-3 moves you are mated. So he resigned, of course.
He resigned here, yes.
Yeah. Even if it was a little bit unclear in the opening, and very interesting opening anyway, finally white could win a very spectacular game and very good one. You see, the point of view of theory, the game was excellent. Yeah.
So how is the mate here? Sorry,
Right, you have to take in c4, and now queen takes with check, no?
Yes.
King f8, no? And now rook f5 check. Or taking the rook. And now
sorry.
Okay, rook f5 mates. But you can take the rook, of course.
Yes.
No? He has to play rook, king there. And now, again, another check in h7. And okay, now rook up and mate, you know.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah. Well, nice game. Not very complicated at the end, you know. But before it was interesting. Yeah. Unusual opening, anyway. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
Yeah.